A Roman senator wrote this about Jesus: he despised Christians. Others who wrote about Jesus didn't. Some just did their job. None of them meant to prove he was real. They just couldn't leave him out. If you've ever been told the only proof of Jesus is the Bible itself, written by people who already believed, you've probably felt that doubt creep in. This isn't a video about winning that argument with faith. It's about something stranger. A Roman governor, a satirist mocking Christians for sport, a Jewish critic trying to discredit the whole religion. People with no interest in helping Jesus' reputation wrote him down anyway. Not all of what they wrote holds up equally. Some of it is historically strong, some of it doesn't hold up at all. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which is which. Start with Josephus, but not with the passage most videos show you first. He was a Jewish historian, born just a few years after the crucifixion, who later worked for Rome. In another part of his history, while describing the execution of a man named James, Josephus identifies him almost casually as B. That offhand line matters. It doesn't read like Christian preaching. Jesus is only mentioned to identify which James he means. Most scholars treat this short passage as authentic, with little real dispute. Josephus also contains a longer, more famous description of Jesus, written earlier in the same history. But this passage is more complicated. Several phrases, especially the line about rising again on the third day, sound unmistakably Christian. Scholars disagree about how much of it was altered by later copyists. Most think Josephus wrote an original, more neutral account underneath. But the wording we have today can't be treated as untouched, so Josephus counts as strong evidence, especially because of the reference to James. The resurrection line in the longer passage, though, can't be presented as uncontested non-Christian testimony, and it isn't in this video. Now bring in two more names, and these two are about as hostile as it gets. Cornelius Tacitus, one of Rome's most important historians, a man who called Christianity a most mischievous superstition. In 115 AD, explaining why Nero blamed Christians for the fire of Rome, he wrote, "No Christian sympathy, no attempt to defend the movement, just a Roman historian locating its founder, his execution, and the official responsible for it." Tacitus doesn't tell us where he got this. Records, common knowledge, reports about Christians themselves, we don't know. But he wrote it as settled fact, not rumor. Then there's Pliny the Younger, a Roman governor writing to the emperor in 111 AD, asking what to do with the growing number of Christians in his province. He interrogated former believers, some who'd left the faith over 2 decades earlier, and this is what they told him they used to do. Pliny doesn't give us a biography of Jesus. He never mentions Pilate or Judea or the crucifixion. What he proves is something else. That by the early 2nd century, worship of Christ was already established far beyond Judea, deeply enough to worry a Roman governor. Put those two side by side. Tacitus places Jesus' execution under a real Roman governor. Pliny shows that decades later, ordinary people far beyond Judea were already singing to Christ as God. Neither man believed a word of it. Both wrote it down anyway. Those are the load-bearing sources. What comes next doesn't carry the same weight on its own, but it corroborates the picture. Lucian of Samosata, a satirist, writing decades later, mocking a con man who briefly joined the Christians for the free meals. Lucian isn't an eyewitness to Jesus, and he's almost certainly just repeating what was already known about Christians in his time. But even while making fun of them, he let this detail slip. Then there's a Jewish critic named Celsus, writing around 175 AD, attacking Jesus by attacking his birth. His own book didn't survive, We only have it because a Christian writer, Origen, quoted it decades later to argue against it. Celsus claimed, "Notice what that actually says. Not that the carpenter was his father, the opposite. Celsus wasn't working from official records. He was attacking Christian claims with a rival story about Jesus' birth. But that still tells us something. By the 2nd century, Christianity's opponents weren't usually arguing that Jesus never existed. They were arguing about who he was, how he was born, and what his life meant." Now, here's where most videos like this one get sloppy. They'll hand you 4 more names, as if they carry the same weight as what you just heard. They don't, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. Start with a name a lot of these videos use as if it settles things: the Talmud. A tradition in Sanhedrin 43a describes a man called Jesus the Nazarene, executed around Passover, accused of leading Israel astray. But the Babylonian Talmud reached its final written form centuries after Jesus, not decades. And the procedure it describes is stoning, followed by hanging the body, not the Roman crucifixion Tacitus records. It may preserve an old, hostile memory. It may also reflect a much later Jewish-Christian argument. Either way, it's too late and too different to stand next to Josephus or Tacitus. Bar-Serapion wrote a letter that never actually names Jesus. It mentions the wise king of the Jews, unjustly killed. Many scholars think that's Jesus, but the letter never says so, and its date is genuinely uncertain. Proposals range from the late 1st century all the way to the 3rd. It's a strong guess, resting on an uncertain date, not a dated citation. Later writers connected a darkness described in a lost book by Phlegon to the period when Jesus is thought to have died. But Phlegon's original work doesn't survive, and the connection to Jesus was made by Christian authors quoting him, not by Phlegon himself. And Fronto, a Roman teacher, only survives through a second-hand, mocking description of Christians worshiping a criminal and his cross, preserved by another author entirely. Vague, hostile, and third-hand. Interesting? Yes. Proof? No. And a list that treats these 4 the same as Josephus or Tacitus isn't being honest with you. So what does all of this actually establish? Taken together, the strongest sources establish a limited but important historical floor. Jesus was known as a real person. He was executed under Pontius Pilate. A movement formed around him and spread beyond Judea. And by the early 2nd century, communities were already worshiping Christ as divine. These sources don't prove the resurrection. They don't tell us whether the miracles happened, and most of them don't give us independent details about Jesus' life. But they do make one claim extraordinarily difficult to sustain: that Jesus was simply invented centuries later. But faith, asking you to believe in a man who never existed, is a very different question from faith asking you to believe in a man who clearly did. The ancient writers who mentioned Jesus weren't trying to build a case for Christianity. Some were recording history. Others were trying to explain his followers, punish them, mock them, or argue against them. They weren't trying to prove Jesus existed. They simply wrote as though his existence was never the question.